What is going on, everybody? Today we're looking at some Hasbro Star Wars Black Series action figures of what I'm going to call a Disney Plus wave. So we have characters all from Disney Plus shows. So first up, from Book of Boba Fett, we have Black Krrsantan. So this looks really cool. This is such an awesome figure. Kind of more of a deluxe figure in a bigger box design. And of course, being Black Krrsantan as Wookiee, is going to be bigger figure overall. And looks pretty cool there, coming with his big gun as well. So that figure is going to look awesome, of course, with our picture there on the side going with the Book of Boba Fett. And then behind him, we have Commander Appo from the Obi-Wan show. So we saw him sitting on the streets with like a beard, being a beggar. Now, of course, this just looks like the normal Phase 2 clone version of Commander Appo, so that looks pretty cool. But from the Obi-Wan show, we've got him. And then from the Mandalorian, first we have R5-D4. So we've seen him in multiple seasons now, of course, going all the way back to the first Star Wars movie. So it's cool to get R5 there. So in the newer designs where he's going to have a bigger body and stuff, so that'll look cool. And then finally, we have the Mandalorian fleet commander. So just the guy that was in control of the fleet that we saw, especially that last season of the Mandalorian. So he looks pretty cool as well to add him with the rest of our Mandalorians. So pretty cool for all four of these figures. I'm excited to check them out. So let me get them out of the box and we'll take a look at them together. And let's start off with Black Krrsantan, which is the male Wookiee bounty hunter that was forced to flee Kashyyyk at an early age and train as a gladiator, which would lead him to becoming a bounty hunter, where he would eventually be employed by Jabba the Hutt's twin cousins to hunt down Boba Fett and take back control of Tatooine. But after the twins agreed to leave Tatooine, Boba hired Krrsantan to help him fight against the Pike Syndicate, which of course we saw that all in the Book of Boba Fett. And he looks pretty cool here. I really like this figure. I just like the design. So of course we've had multiple Wookiees before and Black Krrsantan himself before, just from the comic, where this is directly from the Book of Boba Fett. And I really like this just because he looks bigger and bulkier and like has nice size to him, where the one from the comic is much more thinner and taller. But I think he looks really cool. So I love his face design wise, especially. Like, I'll see if I can zoom in here for you, just so you can see some of the details of his face. So you can see, since it's all black, you can't really see too many details, but of course has the Wookiee nose, the little eyes sort of in there, and his mouth is open a little. But unfortunately, he doesn't have like his damage sort of painted. So like this area in here is like some of his damage, you know, scars and stuff. So I feel those should be painted with like a red or pinkish color since they're all scarred up. But I do love how they added the wash over with the white, so kind of adds some of that aged look to him with the white there around on his chin and forehead and stuff. So that's pretty cool, going around to the back where he does have sort of like the braids, which we saw back in like episode 3 with Tarful and everything. So pretty cool that he's got those thrown in there as well, especially coming down here in the front. But the rest of it looks cool. You know, that black continues all the way through and does have the white wash over the top of it, so it's down his arms and legs all the way there. And then he has his chest arm, which we saw this pretty similar to the comic one, just a little more spread out and smaller in design wise. But it's got a nice gold detail with some like brown, looks like leather designs. Nice little design there on the chest piece, going out to the shoulder pads that have the spikes all over them, so look pretty cool, almost look like a turtle shell design, and going around to the back with a slot to be able to hold his gun. And then he's got the belt around his waist as well, so again like a belt buckle design there, and it goes around. So he has some pelt hanging down off him, so probably killed some sort of creature and has pelt hanging off there, and then has a pocket as well attached onto the belt, so that's pretty cool. And then the only real notable thing is on his hands we do have the knuckle dusters, so he does have the gold spikes there of his knuckle dusters, which is pretty cool. So he's got that hanging off all the way down to his bare Wookiee feet there, so in a brownish design. So overall I really like this. Like I said, I just like it because he looks much thicker and everything, especially the head compared to the other ones, so I like the look overall for him. But for moon-wise, we get the head that does move. Now, it's not going to move much at all because of the fur and all that. So it just moves a little bit back and forth and then can look up and down just a little bit there. So a little bit of rocking back and forth. So unfortunately, not much movements, which with the Wookiees, we don't get much movements anyways. But then we can go to the shoulders that you do have to kind of force it, and the shoulder pads don't get out of the way too easily. But if you force it, it does go up to 90 there, and has the butterfly, but it doesn't really do much. It's pretty much pointless, but it is in there. And then, of course, the shoulder can rotate around. We get the single elbow joint that bends there pretty much to 90, which is decent, and has the rotation with the wrist that will twist around. Of course, with all the fur and stuff, it's hard to get it to twist all the way around. And then does have a flex back and forth for this hand. Then we can go to the ab crunch, which there's right under the chest armor, so it can crunch back and forth and twist all the way around there, which is good. And then it feels like there is a little bit more maybe down in here closer to the waist, maybe some more crunching. It's hard to really tell because he's got additional like floating fur section in there. But down to the hips, they do come up pretty much to 90, and out to the side can do the splits, so good for that. We go down to the knee that does have the single joint that can bend back pretty close to 90 at 290 with the rotation, and then down to the foot that can just flex back and forth a little and twist side to side, so not much again because of the fur all around him. So movement wise, he's definitely not the best. It is a Wookiee. The Wookiees never have good movements. I just want a good Wookiee figure that can get in all the poses I want, so still waiting on that. But for what he's got, it's pretty decent. Now unfortunately, accessory wise doesn't really come with much of anything. We just get his blaster rifle, so this big rifle, which looks pretty cool. I love how it almost has like a flamethrower sort of design where it goes from silver to the blue, where if like, you know, he's been firing a lot, it's starting to glow. So it's got that sort of design, which looks cool. And I love the design, so it looks like, you know, it would have a piece that does fold back here for the stock of the gun, and has the sight design on top, very similar to all the Wookiee bowcasters we've seen, like Chewbacca's has that as well. So overall, pretty nice looking gun design. Now I don't know how well this will get into his hands, we'll have to try it, but as I mentioned, he does have the slot there on the back, so it has this little square peg that does fit in there, so you can store onto his back like that, which is cool. That'll probably be what we have to do, but let's just see how well I can get this into his hand. So definitely not the greatest, but there's the best I can get it into his hand. So because of the length of the gun, especially with the stock back here, you have to get it on the outside of his arm because it won't fit anywhere underneath. It's just way too long for the joint, and you have to get his hand bent in as far as it can. So you have to get that bent in, and then you can sort of get into that other hand as well like that. But that's the best that he can do. He can't hold it any better than that. Any other movements outside of this, it just isn't in his hand. It either falls out of the grip here or here, and it's not on him. So it's probably just best to store it onto his back. But either way, like I said, the figure itself looks good. I just wish they could have worked out the gun a little bit better. But again, if he had better range of movements, that would probably work out better overall. But either way, the Black Krrsantan from the Book of Boba Fett here looks really cool. Now, as I mentioned, we have had him from the comic book. So here is the comic book version, and you can see just how tall it is. Of course, this is using the Chewbacca body. Just they sort of painted it all black and then added some of the braids coming off of this one. But there we see the difference between the comic and movie version, which the comic just has, you know, much more design. The shoulder pads have a lot bigger spikes and up a little bit higher, and has the same sort of chest design, just more details and like bigger designs and stuff. Obviously a lot less paint to him though, and then just those same Wookiee for Chewbacca, so it's a lot thinner. So you can see his legs and arms are much thinner compared to this Black Krrsantan. So I definitely prefer the show one much more. And just so you can see comparison height wise, here we have Boba Fett and Cad Bane as well alongside Black Krrsantan. Of course, I feel he should be taller than he is, which, you know, can't really do much about that, but I feel that other Black Krrsantan's way too tall. But I think for what it is here isn't bad at all. You know, pretty decent height towering over those two still. So either way, this Black Krrsantan does look really cool. Like I said, I love the thickness of him, the overall design and look looks pretty much strictly how it does from the show. So can't complain too much beyond that. Just, you know, the minor issues of it just being a Wookiee character as usual. But either way, it's still really cool, and I love this figure. And next up, we have Commander Appo from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and he's a clone commander of the 501st towards the end of the Clone Wars, and he led the 501st alongside Anakin for the attack on the Jedi Temple to slaughter the Jedi. And then in the Obi-Wan series, we see he's a homeless clone living on the streets, and he's got a long beard. So unfortunately, this is more from what I guess you'd be like Clone Wars series, where he's going to be in just the normal clean clone armor as opposed to the homeless version we see him in Kenobi. But since we saw him in Kenobi, that's what they put him from. But overall, looks pretty cool, you know, especially face-wise, does look like the clone, so he has Tamora Morrison's face, or Jango Fett's, whatever, and I love how he's got more of a flat top haircut, but he's got more hair. He's not, you know, got a shaved head or anything, but the flat top haircut, and then of course the normal clone outfit, so the black body glove from his neck that goes all the way down with the clone armor, and this is the phase 2 clone armor on him, so he's got pretty much, you know, all white, so got the chest section down all the way to the crotch, the shoulder pads, and then down the arms to the hands, and the thighs all the way down to the boots there on the feet. And with him being a part of the 501st, he does have the blue paint, so blue down the center, on the shoulders, there a little bit around the wrist, around the knees, and the lines going all the way down to the feet there on the legs. So overall looks pretty cool, and I love how they added the blue there on the back, and even a little bit of dots there on his belt as well. So overall, I think he looks decent, you know, just a normal clone, nothing too fancy about it, and just looks like it's a part of the 501st with the blue color. But for movements, get the head that'll twist all the way around. Can look down that far and up that far, so just a little bit of back and forth. The shoulders do come up to 90 there with the butterfly joint that moves back and forth. And of course, it can rotate all the way around with that shoulder pad that moves with it. Then we get a bicep twist, so right at the arm there, we get a bicep twist. And the single elbow joint that bends to 90 with the rotation in it as well. All the way down to the wrist that twists around and has the flex up and down hand. Then we go to the ab crunch, so right in here we crunch back and forth and twist all the way around. And then down to the hips, they can come up, especially if you twist out to the side up to 90 and then out to the side there. Of course, the thigh twist, and then down to the single knee joint that bends back to 90 with the rotation. all the way down to the foot that flexes back and forth and can flex side to side. So pretty decent movements, just the standard Star Wars movements with the single knees and elbows, and especially for the clones and the newer clone designs that we have there. So nothing new or out of the ordinary. But of course we do get his helmet as well. So we get the helmet, so the Phase 2 clone helmet with the blue designs for the 501st that just slides right on his head there. So that looks pretty decent again with the blue continuing on there for the 501st. And then we get his weapons. So of course we get the standard clone weapons. So we get the DC-15S blaster carbine, so there's the standard clone gun there, as well as the DC-15A blaster rifle, so the longer rifle design. So let's maybe put the rifle into his hand. So there's Appo with that gun, so that looks pretty cool. It just looks like a clone trooper, a part of the 501st with the blue designs, and overall looks pretty cool. But we can bring in our other 501st. Of course, we've had a number of them by now, but I'm just going with more basic things related to Appo here. So here we just have a Phase 2 501st trooper, and the one thing about this I don't like is you can see the difference in the blues. So this blue is definitely a lighter blue, maybe more of a teal color. It's got a little bit of like a green tinge into it compared to this darker blue of this 501st trooper. So I don't like that since it's not going to match with any of the other 501st. And then of course we have Commander Rex. So we have Rex as well to go along, of course, the leader of the 501st, which if you didn't know, part of the story. So Rex stays with Ahsoka as well as the 332nd that get the Ahsoka design on their helmets. So they stay for the Siege of Mandalore that we saw in season 7 of the Clone Wars. But then Appo then becomes the commander of the 501st to go back to Coruscant with Anakin, and so he becomes the new leader and then is there, like I said, with the attack on the Jedi Temple and everything. So I thought that was pretty cool to get Appo with that. But unfortunately, I wish we could have had no more related to the Kenobi series where he's homeless, so look much dirtier, probably closer to this one. And then he had a long white beard, which had been cool as well. But it's cool just to get Appo as the 501st trooper here. Can easily throw it in with our other clone troopers and he fits in just fine. I just wish the blue sort of matched between them all, so it's getting a little bit of a hodgepodge design there. But overall, I think he looks really cool, and it's awesome just to get another clone commander, especially for the 501st, to add to our collection. And next up we have R5-D4, which is an R5 astromech droid produced by Industrial Automaton with a masculine programming. However, its cheap cost meant it was hampered with malfunctions, and the droid served its master on Tatooine for 22 years before being picked up by Jawas, where its memory was wiped and its body was somewhat repaired before being sold to the Lars family. But his bad motivator caused him to explode, and R2-D2 was purchased instead. And years later, he was acquired by Pelimoto to help around the hangar bay, and in the Mandalorian series, we see he's bought by Din Djarin to assist in the exploration of Mandalore. So overall, it's cool to get R5, so we can obviously use him to go along with like our Star Wars New Hope characters, add him into that, or use him with the Mandalorian since that's where we've seen him more recently. But overall, looks pretty cool. So he has the R5 design, so he has, similar body and everything overall to R2, just the different head shape design where it's got more of this sort of like almost coming to a point. So it's got more of these flat triangle like head design, just has the different head shape design. But I love how it's got what would be like the 3 eye holes. Obviously it's a droid, doesn't really have eyes, but it's got the 3 holes there with the additional peg coming out and all the little stuff there. The antenna up on top of his head with some of the red design and the red going around to the little sections there on the side and the piece here around his neck. So that's one thing I love about R5 is the combination of the red and blue. So we've got the blue similar to R2-D2, but then the red thrown in as well. And then down to his main chest, like I said, it does look a lot like R2-D2. So we have the red pieces on the front here that will open as well on the side here for the arm sections. Then blue around here on the side, around there on his legs as well to the back where he's got some red and blue as well. And of course, as usual, he does have the third leg there in the center. And then these ones do have the neck that extend open. I think I forgot to show this when I did the R2 figure, but the head does pull up and you can store the accessories in there, which is pretty cool. It gives that so they don't have to just float around in like a bag or whatever with them so you don't lose them. But overall, not the most exciting thing, just a basic droid that doesn't do much. But for movements, we do have the head that does twist around, so it does twist all the way around. And then we can go to the legs that do move as well, so that they can move back and forth and rotate all the way around with a little bit what would be like ankle movement back and forth. So you can, when you want it to like, sit back with the third leg, you can get it in that position there or do it in the front, whatever you want. And then we can also get that third leg out, which I hate on these. They're always hard to get out because you have to just grab a hold of it and pull it out. So you can do that there. And then it has some movement as well. So again, you can get it to sit in the tripod mode mode or whatever, so they can sit there and roll across the ground. But I like with the old one how you would twist the head and that would get the leg to move in and out. So I like that function a little bit more. But there we have R5, and of course he comes with a number of accessories, so especially functions on this. So we get the little doors that open, and again they're harder to open on these since they didn't add the little tabs that you could easily grab onto and open, so you just have to get your finger worked in there. So we get those that have 3 sections that we can put all the little additional accessories in, and then we do also get the flaps here on the front, these little red flaps that do open. So like especially we've seen with R2, or especially him, I guess, when he explodes, all these little doors and stuff open up, so you just get those additional functions. But then we have all the additional little arms he comes with. Now, I don't know what all these do, so we get this arm as well. So again, like I said, I don't know what all they do. I couldn't really find much on it. So we get this arm, we get this arm, which I kind of like that design there. I think it looks cool. We get this one, which kind of looks like the one R2 does, like the sprocket thing or whatever that sort of goes into terminals and twist around. We get this one that maybe looks like a little like gripper hand, so we can grab onto stuff. And then this one that may be like a little shock prod, because that's what it looks like. Like it shoots a little electricity out to shock things. But one thing that he comes with that R2 didn't is that he also comes with a little communicator. So it's cool he comes with that. Of course, don't really have anywhere to put it. I'm sure you could probably stick it in one of these pegs, but it's so small and everything, it'd be hard to get in and out. But you just have that option, and obviously you can stick these anywhere to have them wherever you want them, which is again a thing I don't like as much. I prefer the older designs on those. And speaking of older designs, I do have the older Black Series figures, so you can see the difference in size. So they made them much bigger. So there you can see the comparison. And then I like how this one's a lot like wider, where this one's more of the yellow color, but since it is further along in time, like many years later, it makes sense that he's more yellow and everything. But what I was talking about with the older one is that it had the doors and, you know, has the accessories already inside there that you could then just fold out. So you just only get 2, which is the only downside. But for me, I also don't really care if he has more than 2. I just want some sort of a little arm that comes out. So there's the little gripper arm. So you have those, and then none of the other stuff opens on him and nothing on top. But again, with the thing, you twist ahead to get the third leg in and out. So you just twist it and it goes in, and twist it to come back out. So I like that design quite a bit. And then you could just adjust it there. So I do like that design. I wish that they would have carried that over to this new one, but they give you more accessories and everything, and allows you to store the accessories in the head there. So they had to take out the twist mechanic for the leg for that to happen. So it makes sense. I just would like the stuff on the older figures much more. And then of course we have R2D2 as well. Of course I just have R2 standing up, but there you can see R2 and R5 there together. And of course part of the story is that R5 knew R2D2 needed to be chosen, so he made himself explode. So R2 would be chosen by the Lars family, and he can continue on his mission. So that's kind of cool, I guess, but awesome just to see those two there together, and cool to add R5 to the collection now. And our final figure today is the Mandalorian Fleet Commander, which is the captain of what was formerly Moff Gideon's Imperial Light Cruiser, and he's a part of the Mandalorian fleet that were working as mercenaries and privateers under the leadership of Axe Woves. And of course we saw him toward the later episodes of the last season of the Mandalorian when they did the attack on Mandalore, and he was commanding the Imperial Light Cruiser. As I mentioned, overall looks pretty decent, so we see him here. Of course he's going to have all the same armor as the other Mandalorian characters we've had, so nothing really new or different. I just like that his body glove looks more of a really dark blue color, so I like that again from his neck all the way down to his legs. And then he's got the Mandalorian chest plate, so I don't know if it's Beskar or not, but it looks, you know, just like Jango Fett's and all the other Mandalorian characters we got there. But I like it in the gray design. The flat gray is pretty cool with that up on the shoulders and chest. And then he's got van braces there on his forearms, again in a nice metallic blue color, so I like the metallic blue that matches with the thigh pads. And then he's got the gray there on his boots, so he's got some black boots with brown coverings and the lighter gray colors for the knee pads and the shin guards on there. So I just like the color combination for him. I think it stands out and looks a little bit cool. I just like his design. And then of course we have the face of the real life person. I didn't get the actor's name. Overall he looks pretty decent. It does look relatively similar to what we see. So he's got the darker skin and the shorter haircut there like the guy had. So overall looks pretty decent. But for movements, we get the head that'll twist all the way around. Look down that far and up that far, so we get not much movement in the head. But then we get the shoulders that come up to 90. Of course, there's the butterfly, but it doesn't really do much. It's just very little back and forth, but it also twists all the way around. Then we get these single elbow joints that can bend to 90, that has rotation. And then there is some rotation right at the end of the van brace, so it can twist around there as well. So that twists around, and then the wrist will twist around and flex. This one has an up and down flex. But then we go to the ab crunch, so right under this section here, so crunch back and forth. And doesn't really twist around, just a little bit back and forth. But then the hips can come up to 90 and out to the side. Get a thigh twist around. The single knee joint that bends back to 90 with the rotation. And then the foot will flex back and forth and twist side to side. So the pretty standard move, it's nothing new or out of the ordinary, especially for the Mandalorian characters. But accessory-wise, he does come with his helmet. So of course we see his helmet in the show. So we've got that, which has a nice little design up there on the helmet. It's hard to see, it just looks like a V design. Of course, his rangefinder there that can come down in front of his face. So we got that sticking up, and then again, like the gray color. So with all the metallic blue and then the flat gray, looks pretty cool. So we have that we can slide onto his head, which unfortunately his is really loose, so it just barely sits on his head for this, unfortunately. So can always get off to the side there and everything, so you just have to be careful with that. We also get his jetpack, so like a lot of the other Mandalorian characters, so we have the jetpack design. Of course, has the little exhaust ports that do move around, and then the little missile at the top here does come out as well, so you could have that fired off if you want. But let's go and just stick this into his back. So there he's got the jetpack now on his back, kind of fills him out a little bit more there. And finally we get his Westar 35 blaster. Now unfortunately he doesn't have any holsters or anything, so we can't store it on him, so we'll have to just put this into his hand. So there's the gun in his hand, and I guess that looks pretty cool there. I wish we had a place to store it though, since like all of our other Mandalorian characters do. So I wish we had that, but he doesn't, unfortunately, so we'll just have to keep it in his hands. But of course we can add all other Mandalorian characters that he belongs with in here. And there he is with the other Mandalorians. So, of course, we have his leaders of Bo-Katan, who was formerly his leader. And then in the season, we see Axe Woves has taken over. So we have those two, as well as Koska Reeves that belongs with him. And then the Death Watch Mandalorian that just has the similar blue design as all the others. So I thought they all look pretty cool there with our blue-colored versions of the Mandalorians. So pretty cool to add the Fleet Commander in with the rest of them. Again, especially along with Bo, Koska, and Axe Woves there. So pretty cool to have him in the collection now. Well, that's it for this Star Wars Black Series Disney Plus wave of characters, where we had Black Krrsantan from the Book of Boba Fett, Commander Appo from the Obi-Wan series, and then R5-D4 and the Mandalorian Fleet Commander from the Mandalorian. So all four of these characters are cool. Love especially having Black Krrsantan. Cool to always add another clone, especially like a named clone, into our collection. And then the Mandalorian Fleet Commander and R5 are just cool additions. Not necessary characters, like you definitely go without them, but they are cool just to build out, more of the droids with the newer droid body for R5, and then the Mandalorian Fleet Commander, just, build out more of that team that I showed there. So cool figures overall, and I enjoy each one of them. But let me know your opinions of it, though, down in the comments. And if you enjoyed my review, let me know with a like. And if you want to see more reviews, don't forget that subscribe button. But I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all stay awesome out there, and I'll see you in our next review.